Well, thanks for listening to the Connexus Church audio podcast. This is Kerry Newhoff here. I'm the founding and teaching pastor at Connexus Church. And every once in a while, we just slip in a bonus episode. So I do this other podcast called the Kerry Newhoff Leadership Podcast. And I interview guests from around the world, but occasionally I'll pop in locally. And a couple months ago on my leadership podcast, sat down with Rose Meeder, who attends Connexus Church Aurelia. And Rob and Rose, we've been in community group with them. They are amazing people. And honestly, of all the people I've met in my life, I don't think anybody does a better job of having meaningful, life-giving, sometimes life-changing conversations with people who are at every place on the faith journey than my friend Rose Meeder, Rose Zacharias Meeder. She has her own podcast called Intersections, which you can get wherever you get podcasts. And you'll hear her on that podcast just talking to people about their faith journey. And Rose is so good at that in life, but also on her podcast. I thought, I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with her. So this is actually an interview I did for my leadership podcast a couple months ago. We're bringing it to you on the Connexus Church podcast. As part of our Don't Be Weird series. It's a series that Jeff Brody and I are teaching at Connexus Church in the early summer of 2017. It's all about how to share your faith without being like a weirdo, because we've all met like weirdos who share their faith in weird ways, and you don't want to be like that, and I don't want to be like that, and actually sometimes that does more harm than good. So I know a lot of us are afraid to share our faith. A lot of us are wondering, how would I even do it? And so I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Rose Meeder. And so why don't we get right to it? Here we go. My conversation with Rose Meeder. Well, I'm really excited to have Rose. Is it Zacharias or Meeder or all of the above on my podcast?
Now I'm combining my surnames. So
okay.
Here you go. So my name is Rose Zacharias Meeder.
So here's a trivia bit for you.
Yeah.
You're the only repeat last name ever on the podcast. You and Ravi Zacharias.
I know.
Are you possibly like related somehow?
Oh my goodness. No, but what a crazy, amazing compliment. If people ever even ask me, this is big shoes this is an honor, Kerry, honestly, to sit in the seat, proverbial seat, where you've had Ravi Zacharias, Chuck Swindoll, Andy Stanley, and today you're talking to me.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole vision behind the podcast, right? It's people we know, and then I guess the common denominator is they're all people I know, and we go way back, right?
We do.
You and your husband became part of our the church I was part of before we launched Connexus.
Yes.
And I met you when you were straight out of med school.
Yeah, I was just landed my first family practice, emergency room practice job here in Aurelia. Mm-hmm. And literally, my husband and I came to town. We were checking out churches, and we started in the phone book. And I think he was actually working at the hospital that morning, but I came out on my own and was introduced to you by a colleague of mine who was attending the church you were at. And then you remembered my name. So I was really impressed.
There were a lot less people back then, so it was a lot easier. When your church gets a little bit bigger, it gets a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. But now, no, it was great to meet you. And I mean, you were you didn't even have kids then.
That's right. Yeah, I know.
4 kids later.
Oh my gosh, our family has grown.
And we go way back. We used to host a radio show back in the day.
We did. Remember Life
radio?
Matters.
Life
I love
Matters.
that. And that was at the time of all my pregnancies. We used to time the broadcast and the pre-recording the episodes so that I could go and have my baby, and then because
6
they all
weeks
came
later,
along, exactly.
we could come back and do some more shows.
The 4 of them came along in 4.5 years, but that was a few years ago. Now
that was 10 years ago, I think.
My youngest is 7, my oldest is 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you and your husband are both docs and very heavily involved at our church.
Yes.
You also are of recent podcast fame.
Yeah. Well, I'm a recent podcast producer person. I love my podcast project. I don't know how famous it's become yet, but I love it. And so thank you. You've been a bit of a mentor and a role model to me, Kerry. Thank you so much.
You and Rob came over and you're like, let me see your gear.
Yes.
And then 6 months later, you got a podcast of your own. So we'll link to all this in the show notes.
Thank you.
One of the reasons, I mean, you and Rob have been a good friends for years and years and years. We've been at each other's houses millions of times.
We've done life together.
We've been in small group together, the whole deal.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've learned about you, Rose, is you're honestly, I think, one of the best inviters of people to church I know. And you probably have more relationships with people who wouldn't consider themselves Christian and wouldn't normally find themselves in church and maybe would have like entirely different viewpoints than Christians would on things. And the reason I think that's such a burning issue, number one, if you're a church leader, you want your church to grow. Number two, everybody kind of realizes, okay, our culture is becoming way more post-Christian and way more post-modern. And even if that's not true, if you're a Gen X or a baby boomer, you look around like, no, I know a lot of Christians. Go hang out with some millennials. You will discover they think a lot more like Canadians have been thinking for years. And so here we are trying to, we're part of the same church. You're part of Connexus Church, which I'm a part of. Yes. And we're trying to make a difference in Barrie, Aurelia, online and beyond. We're launching new campuses, Christmas in 4 cities last year,
Love it.
All that stuff. Yes. We're trying to make a dent. But it means you're going to have conversations with people who are very, very different.
Absolutely.
Now, your husband says, Rob says, you're just a natural at it. Now, tell me, how did you get interested? You are fascinated by people, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a people person. I know that about myself for sure. And it's definitely a natural extension of my inborn personality I love to get to know people. I love that honest, slightly one layer peeled back level of relationship where you are yourself with someone. And having honest conversations with people is very important to me. And so I seek it out. Some people might say I'm almost a little nosy, but I'm curious. And so
you do this thing, right? When we haven't seen each other for a couple of weeks or a month, where you're like, you just zone in on someone.
I do.
And can I do my Rose impersonation?
Okay, you go.
All right. Yeah. I've never done this for you. But you're like, okay, we are going to catch up before we leave tonight.
Yes. Yeah, I know. So I've called it investigative conversation. It's intentional.
Okay.
It can sound a bit harsh, but hey, I want to use my time well. I care about the person I'm talking to. If it's someone I have any sort of background or context with, then I want to catch up and I want to really know, like, how are you doing? What's new in this area? And I go there and I do ask those questions fairly quickly and fairly upfront in the conversation. And I think it leads to a deeper relationship.
Well, the other thing that just sort of occurred to me while you were talking about it is a lot of us are really good at talking about ourselves. And we're really good at, like, if you think about building a relationship with people who maybe don't believe what you believe or go to your church, often it would be like, I got to sell you on something, right? Like, I want to tell you about me. I want to tell you about my church. Yeah. And you do. We'll get to that. Like, you talk to people. But one of the things you're very, very good at, and I think what makes conversations so interesting, is you kind of park yourself. It's not like, here's what's up with my kids, or here's like, I always know what's going on in your world. But like, when you're in that mode, it is all about the person you're talking to. And you're like, so tell me, how's it really going?
Yeah.
And how's the family? And you remember details. Like, you will ask me about my podcast, or you'll say, aren't you supposed to be writing a book right now? How's that going? It's like, next subject.
How's your biking going?
How's my biking going? Yeah, it's like, or not going, Rose.
Or plans to run your first marathon.
Yeah, that's right. That was a joke. Wasn't that in sound check? All right.
Just checking in.
Yeah. No, I might do it. See, but you're very, very good at being interested in the other person. And I think that is a lost art in our culture.
Oh, well, I think I figured it out. I mean, now I'm in my mid-40s, Carrie. I mean, I think I've had this personality almost quirk for the longest time. I grew up as one girl of 3 girls. I'm the oldest of 3 daughters. And my sisters knew about me fairly early on that I wanted to talk to them. And just, how you grow up in your family and probably the things that maybe are going to turn out to be not so bad personality aspects of yourself, your family doesn't really appreciate.
So here's Rose again, asking questions.
Exactly. And so, I think I even maybe learned early on that not everybody's interested. And my sisters sometimes weren't. And they'd say, listen, that's my business. We don't need to go there all the time. And so I knew I had this part of my personality, but here I am in my mid-40s. It's time to embrace who you are. I know I love to have deeper conversations. Small talk, I find tiresome. So if I have the opportunity to meet...
So it's small talk or no talk for me?
Well, yeah, small talk initially.
Increasingly, the older I get, the more it's no talk.
I know.
I'll just sit in the corner on
and
my
all
phone.
our lives are busy. And so when you have the opportunity to socialize, like if I make a coffee date with someone, or I have a little bit of downtime at work and I happen to be in conversation with someone, well, then I want to use those minutes. It is all about efficiency too. I want to use those minutes. And people often maybe don't get asked how they're doing. And so
I think that's very true.
When you ask, how are you doing? And someone opens up, then I just think the richness of the conversation just, it comes out. It's so enjoyable. It's good. It's important.
I don't know why, whether I'm just becoming more sensitive to it or whether I just see more of it. It's a cultural shift, but you learn sort of people 101. Okay. Ask people questions. Rose, how are you doing? Tell me what's new. How's Rob? I know you're working on a couple of projects. Bring me up to date.
Yes.
And so I'll have those conversations in social settings or even church settings or whatever. And I'll ask people lots of questions. And then normally, naturally, what should happen is they should ask you, well, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. What's going on? How's Tony? How are the boys? How's the church doing? You know, what's going on? Are you biking? Did you have a vacation? You're right, just like, and the number of times it's a one-sided conversation just seems to be growing where I ask a lot of questions. Maybe it's just, I needed a shower or I don't know what it was.
Keep your distance.
Or people, there's something I'm missing. But I think the death of conversation real conversation is happening. Let me ask you, why does that fuel you? Do you know that? Why does knowing the details of my life? Because I can see it's obviously very fueling to you.
I use the word gift. I think it's a gift when someone is honest with me about their stuff.
Because you don't put up with crap answers either.
Well,
you're like...
I think everyone actually has a real answer. Like I actually think, on any given day, if someone was to ask you, how are you doing? There's a superficial answer that you'll give. You'll even say fine, because hey, we're Canadian and we say doing fine. That's not necessarily a Canadian thing, but it's a cultural thing. But there is another answer. You are not always doing fine. There is some stuff going on. You have had some inner dialogue about your day so far. And so when I am able to lean in and ask, how are you doing? And an honest answer comes back, that's cool. I mean, that's just, it's a privilege. It's a gift. It feels good to be trusted that way.
But you'll also, it depends on how well you know the person, but you will cut through the veneer because there are times where you said, how you doing, Carrie? And I'm like, I'm good. And then you look at me and go, really? Really? I'm like, okay, yeah, it's been a tough
because
week.
It's a waste of time to stay in the I'm fine.
Right.
It's a waste of time. I mean, we can do these niceties with each other, but really, then I have other things to do. Then I actually am busy with other stuff. If we're going to have a conversation, let's have a real and honest conversation, even if it's just catching up or, how you're doing. Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
Right. Do you ever find that your level of depth will intimidate or frighten people? Or do you feel that people normally hey, this is really good. Nobody asks me this stuff.
Exactly both.
You see both? So you see people get uncomfortable?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So, well, then, there's respect that's appropriate. And also, I think a lost opportunity. I mean, at that point, when I've had the opportunity to ask someone how they're really doing and they've nicely turned me down, from my perspective, I think, okay, we could have used those 2 to 5 to 10 to 20 minutes and had an honest conversation. But for one reason or another, that person's not going there today. And that's okay. That's okay.
You know what? It's funny. Just asking you the question, I'm like, yes, I've seen that part of you. Because again, you and your husband, me and my wife, we've done hundreds of hours of groups together.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we've spent.
We've been years
a ridiculous
in group.
year.
Yeah, Rob and I have been
decade.
your and Tony's small group leaders for
decade,
years. Yeah,
where we've been at each other's houses and in each other's lives. So I've become a student of watching this dynamic. What did you know you were being studied?
Not really.
But here's what you do. Bless you. When
Thanks.
somebody is uncomfortable, and I've seen that, you're like, so let's do that role play where you're like, Carrie, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. And you're like, really? And you can tell, okay, now you've hit a nerve, or I'm not going to talk about it. You will come alongside somebody and go, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to talk about it, that's all right.
Yeah.
But if you do,
Yeah.
I want you to know I'm here for you.
I hope so. I mean, I want to be respectful.
I've seen you do that.
Okay. Because it's not everybody's day to have a real conversation about how they're doing. And honestly, I have also been asked sometimes by people, how are you really doing? And I haven't always gone there with my answer for one reason or another. And so, yeah, it doesn't always happen. But I think being intentional and looking for it creates and opens up these beautiful opportunities to have authentic relationships with people and really be invited into their space. And that's just cool. That's my heartbeat. That is the relationships that I want to have in real life. It fuels me. It strengthens me. I feel bolstered by people in my life who have shared some of their stuff with me.
Yeah, you really do, and like you enjoy it. I don't want to say. I don't want to say like if I have a problem, you enjoy it.
Freaking yeah.
But when I burned out, right? You and Rob were my small group leaders, and I remember we went through a lot of moments in small group where I was just at the bottom, and that was over 10 years ago now. But it was really helpful, and I know it meant a lot. First of all, I look back; it meant an awful lot to me. To have a handful of people close to me who were really with me and not trying to fix me every 30 seconds, but just you've got, let's talk about that for a moment. Empathy. Yeah. I would say that's one of your gifts, that you are an empathetic person.
Oh yeah. I did all those personality surveys. That always comes out on
the
top. Yep.
So what's empathy to you?
Yeah, it's getting in someone else's skin for the moment and feeling the experience from their perspective.
Yeah, that's a good definition.
And I only get to go there if I ask questions. How are you doing? How are you processing it? Like, what does that make you think about? Are you distracted by, your current issues? And I think that's how God designed us. I mean, God was all about putting people on the planet for each other. Of course, God is, relational himself and wants so much for us to be in relationship with him. And maybe I got an extra dose of that relationship stuff because I just think it's part of my God-given personality is to seek out relationship and to seek it out authentically. And when I pick up and intuit that there's another emotion at play in your answer, in your behavior at a particular small group evening, and you're extra quiet or you're extra talkative about the weather, then I just seem to have a sense.
Yeah, you pick up on those cues.
That there's more. And then I go there. And if the invitation is well received, then that is when I have had beautiful encounters with people.
So what does that mean? You've used that phrase a few times. What is a beautiful encounter? What is a real conversation to you? Whether that person is part of your church, your small group, or somebody from work who wouldn't even consider themselves spiritual, let alone Christian.
So can I give you an example?
Yeah, totally.
So I interview someone on my podcast program, and her name is Marissa Rodway Norman. Mm-hmm. She and her wife have been friends of mine and Rob's over the last 5-6 years. We're medical colleagues.
Yeah.
And so through work, we developed a professional relationship, but then it spilled out over into similar social circles, and we started to have time we were spending together outside the hospital.
Yeah, the whole social universe revolves around Rob and Rose's house, by the way. If you're anywhere north of Toronto, it all leads back to their house, just so you know.
We have ended up at some evenings and dinner parties, and then there you go, opportunity for conversation. My children are otherwise taken care of. They're still young enough. They go to bed before sometimes the real conversations happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm undistracted and I can have good talks with people.
Yes.
And so, I remember just getting to know Mark at that time because he was a male psychiatrist. And this was a few years ago. And it was one evening at a get-together at a mutual friends of ours that he just leaned in during the conversation and said to my husband and me, the party had kind of dwindled down to about 4 or 5 of us, trusted friends there. And he said, I want to tell you something. And I was like, wow, okay, what's up? And actually, to be honest, I thought that this was going to be a confession of an alternative sexual orientation, gay. I thought that Mark was going to tell me.
Even though he's married.
Just seemed, So, but it was in that conversation that Mark said to me, I'm transgender. And I, to be honest, said, what's that?
That's such a Rose thing.
And it's almost it's embarrassing to admit. I mean, I'm medical.
But this was a few years ago, right?
I'm medical. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. I should have, had the definition of transgender nailed. But I was like, okay, born a man, wants to be a woman, born a woman, wants, I was just quickly running through the definition. Anyhow, that conversation went from that admission of something new and different and that was being held in secret for a couple of decades, I was to come to find out, and a secret life that was being lived. But now, because we had come into a social circle that had been getting together fairly frequently, this was something that Mark, who said to me, and my female preferred name is going to be Marissa, and so I want you to refer me to as that. And in the next short while, I'm going to start appearing more as a woman. I'm going to start dressing in women's clothing. I'm going to start to wear a wig. I'm going to do my hair differently. I'm going to wear makeup. I'm going to wear heels. I'm going to start looking like a woman because I am transgender, which means I have been born a man, but I most identify with female gender, and I want to live my life out now as a woman.
Right. Now, that is button pushing for a lot of people. And it's button pushing for a lot of Christians. Let's just be really honest about
the issue
that.
of transgender.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
How you don't judge people intuitively, do you? What were you?
So there was no judgment that was part of that conversation.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, so tell me how that happened.
That was a pretty raw confession because here was a professional colleague of mine who was coming out with this private piece of information, and I was instantly curious. I instantly needed the definition clarified, but I also knew, like I said, this was a gift. This was someone choosing to be honest with their stuff. And I mean, I grew up in conventional church.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up
Mennonite.
Yeah, Mennonite. And then my parents attended a Baptist church. I confessed my sins and asked Jesus Christ into my heart when I was 5 years old, and then continued, with summer camps and Sunday school and youth group. And those were my formative years. And I would say I grew up with a very conventional, conservative Christian mindset around LGBT or alternative sexuality choices. And there was a lot of growing that I did through my university years, through my medical school training, that I had to work out with my Christian identity. Mm-hmm. And I have come to a place where I think differently than I used to.
Sure.
And just to fast forward, here I found myself in a conversation with someone who I highly respected. He's a psychiatrist on staff. And yet our conversation was going that one layer deeper. He was choosing to be honest about some of his personal stuff. And all the while, I mean, this is in the context of me having been also very open and about my stuff. He knew, and here's the pronouns, that get mixed up, that I attend a community church, that I'm a Christian, that I read my Bible. So, whatever stereotypes that was conjuring up in his mind.
Because it does produce a stereotype. Like, you're the kind of person who should hate me, right?
Yeah. Because as I got to know and am getting to know Marissa better, she's been burned by the church. She's been burned by people who call themselves Christians, and she has really been hurt. And Yeah.
Tony and I were at a social function a couple months ago, and it's not like, particularly in church world, I spend a lot of time with transgendered people. And sometimes I read, about Jesus ministry, and I'm going to preach on this soon, but he's hanging out with people like he hung out with prostitutes. And I'm like, I don't even know anybody who does that. Like, I can't, because I guess I could, but I don't actually even know the kind of people that he would associate with. So we're at this social function, and it was one of those random social functions. And who sits next to me, in between me and another evangelical Christian, but a transgendered woman, formerly a man, a classmate of Tony's that was a man when he graduated and is now a woman.
Okay.
And so of all the places she could have sat during this dinner, she sat between a preacher and an evangelical Christian.
So, and did you recognize her?
Well, I kind of I knew that person from previous reunions,
yes.
But it was a new category. And as we sat down and as we had dinner, you're going to make conversation with the people around you.
Right.
It just gave me a whole new perspective. It's really the first transgender person that I had a conversation over multiple hours with. Yeah. And it gave me a lot of empathy and a lot of them. We talked about how the church treats people like her. And
you did.
In there,
awesome.
Yeah. And in there, I saw, and it's distorted like it is in me as it is in you, the image of God. Like this is somebody that God actually created. Now, you can argue all day long about, is there confusion? Were there issues in their childhood?
Right.
Why did this happen? You can argue all day long about that.
Right.
But, I wonder if that is the kind of conversation or dialogue Jesus himself would have had.
Exactly. Carrie, you hit the nail on the head. Here you were, an opportunity to have a conversation with someone who is not like you.
Yeah.
And you were then able to open up the conversation. And it's going back to the question that you asked me about how do you not judge? I think it's so easier to judge when you stay on the outside of someone else's experience, right? You get this you get this me versus them mentality, and nothing challenges it because you've not engaged with them.
They're a stereotype.
It exists in your mind what that person must be like, why they made the choices that they did, why they behave in a certain way. And that lasts only so long as going to that person and saying, hello. This is me. Who are you? How are you? Can we have a conversation? Can I tell you a little bit about me, or can I ask some questions about you? And I think when that's a sincere pursuit, the judgment falls away because, can I tell you my absolute favorite quote?
Go ahead.
It's, blessed is the rich king who sits down next to the poor beggar and thinks on what they have in common. You will find that the people that you identify as different than you have a lot more in common with you than you think.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because my experience is people love engaging with you. Like they really do. Unchurched people who would never find themselves in church, transgender people, people kind of flock to you in the same way that the outsiders, I'm not comparing you to Jesus, but there you go.
I got to look around for my little flock the next time.
But
it's usually my children.
Unchurched people loved Jesus. And I wonder if it's because it's the first time they didn't feel judged and that they felt listened to and heard and understood, which is very different from agreeing. I'm not necessarily going to agree with every choice that somebody who's, well, first of all, I don't agree with all the choices I make. So, I got a problem right there in me. And, mine may not be in terms of transgender or whatever. I just have problems treating people like human beings, and I have problems cutting people off and what I think about people. And, man, I got a lot of work to do. So, but and I think that's one of the things that we miss. It's like, well, why are there no unchurched people around, or why are all my friends Christian? It's because like attracts like and keeps like, right? So birds of a feather flock together.
Yes.
So we're like each other. We think alike. We agree the same way. We vote the same way.
Yes, I know.
And so it's just my little huddle, and then everybody else is a them. and we're a we. And what you do when you have engaging, empathetic, open, non-judgmental conversations is all of a sudden that tribe just got a lot bigger, and you realize, wow, we really have a lot more in common than just our differences.
Yeah, it's a security and an insecurity thing. I mean, I think, here's my commentary on the human experience.
Okay, here we go. This is big.
Yeah, gosh.
This is big.
I'm sitting in a big seat.
ready
I got to
to
say
tweet.
some big stuff. But it is common to us all that we walk through our lives and size ourselves up. We are constantly sizing ourselves up. How do I compare to that person? How am I, when you measure me up against that person's accomplishments or how they dress or how they look or what their, recent promotion was. And so when you go, when you are walking through life that way, constantly sizing yourself up, you are, it's a commentary on your insecurity. Right? And so it makes me feel that much better when I can put some people in a category beyond me and say, oh, I'm not like that person, or I'm a little bit better than that person. I obviously made a better choice than that person. I stayed in school a little extra long and worked hard, and therefore I got my job, which is different than that person.
Easy to do. Economic discrimination, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And that just full blown is judgment and isolating and
It's the epitome of self-righteousness.
yeah.
It really is, which puts you in bad biblical company, if you were wondering.
It's wrong. It's wrong
Yep.
for the person you are judging. It's wrong for you. You cut yourself short. You really sell yourself short. When you peel away the judgments that you've maybe made and you go and you open up the conversation with someone who is not aligned with you, especially, hey, spiritually, someone who is not aligned with me. They have identified as an atheist, or they've identified as Muslim or Jewish or of another religious group altogether. Well, I want to go and have the conversation with that person and open up the relationship.
So this is interesting because if you've listened thus far and you haven't shut this off, if you haven't, I appreciate it, because we're going places a lot of people don't go in their conversations or their podcasts. But it would be very tempting to think, oh, well, basically you're just saying they're okay, you're okay, let's just agree to coexist. But the reality is, and I know this because we got almost 15 years as friends, and you've been part of our church for that long.
Sure.
Not all, but many of these friendships have resulted in people committing their lives to Jesus,
Right.
being baptized, and becoming followers of Christ, becoming actual Christians.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I could list off over a dozen names of friends whose baptism.
I know, because we live on the lake and we've hosted baptisms
you've
with some
hosted
friends of mine
baptisms at
who
your
were
house.
outside of church, came to church in small group, baptized in our backyard.
And who 5 years later are still tracking with Jesus.
Yeah.
8 years later,
Sure.
still tracking with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like still, their lives are aligned around biblical principles. And so tell me a little bit about that. So you start with this open, empathetic, how are you? How are you for real? Like, classic Rose.
How are you?
How are you for real? Don't lie to me.
Are you going
Don't
to tell
lie to
me? No? Okay, I'm going to move on.
So you're in those kinds of relationships, and then how do you bridge faith? Like, how do you talk about? How do you make the invitation? Your husband Rob says, I say, man, Rob and Rose, they are some of our best inviters. He's like, it's all Rose. That's what Rob says. It's all Rose. I don't do anything.
How do I bridge faith?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a rock solid Christian person. I trusted Jesus with my life as a little girl. Like in the sweetness of that confession in my little Baptist church, that was absolutely honest and real to me. And I have sought out Christian growth opportunities through InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Sure.
And for sure now for my husband and I at Connexus Church, I'm a Christian person. So if I am having a conversation with someone about who they are and their stuff, well, it's only natural to me that some of my stuff comes out too. And if our conversation ever turns towards a challenge that someone's facing, a diagnosis that they recently received, just a parenting issue that they're having.
Yeah.
I know where I go with that stuff. I go to God with that stuff. I mean, I've had, I love to run. You know that about me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big runner and a cyclist.
Woo! So some of my best conversations have actually been when I've been out for long runs, like training for a marathon. We're talking like 30-kilometer runs. It takes me 3 hours to do those runs. And I'll be sometimes with a group of girlfriends. We're all training for a marathon and lots of opportunity for conversation. And stuff comes out, this is what's going on in my marriage, or this is how difficult it is with me and my teenager right now. And these are open, real, raw stories. And I wouldn't know how, as a friend, to even give advice. But I would say, wow, when things get that tough for me, I pray about it.
Yeah.
I take that to God. I mean, just recently, I had a friend of mine who was contemplating separating from her husband. And I totally got it. Like this wasn't one-sided. This was like two people who had hurt each other, kids involved, and it was not healthy, the current relationship that they were in. And we went for long runs and we talked and talked. And I knew, like, my heart for her was that she'd reconcile with her husband. She even wanted that they would do well together and reinforce their marriage. But I believe the only way that was going to get fixed was if God was going to show up huge in their marriage.
Sometimes it's like, only God can fix this.
Yeah.
And it's actually true.
Yeah.
Only Jesus can heal this.
So the conversation went there for sure.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, like, that friend of mine, she never came around. I mean, this was a couple years ago. She never came around to my way of thinking. She hasn't trusted her life to Jesus. She doesn't identify as a Christian. But we run together. It turns out her marriage fell apart. I mean, this is just one specific example, right? But wow, our relationship certainly got much more deeper.
That's another thing that I've seen you do well is people are not projects to you. People are people. So if somebody never comes to church, if somebody came to church and they stopped attending, you haven't got this little different column, different category.
Absolutely not.
No, I know. But you see how counterintuitive that is? Huh. Not everybody who's listening to this would understand that.
Why?
I don't know. You got to ask them. Go ahead. Listen, my natural default, the way sin has wired me, it would be like, well, if you don't share my values, then we can't hang out. And one of my major growth opportunities over the last few years is to hang in there with relationships. I had somebody over to my house last night. We've invited him, dozens of times. And all we did was we talked about the neighborhood. He helped me with a little project. We talked about the neighborhood.
Sure.
And he's like, man, you guys are like the best neighbors we've ever had. And I'm just like, that's great. And I'm thinking, just come to church. Like, I know Jesus would turn your life inside out.
Right.
But he hasn't said yes yet. But I want him to know he is going to be my friend.
Right.
No matter what.
Right.
We're going to ride together. We're going to hang out together.
Right.
I'm going to help him when he needs my help.
And then, Carrie, as your friendship evolves, he will talk to you about his stuff. Like, you'll find out that this or that. I mean, no one's life is ever perfect. We've all got challenges every day. Yeah. And then you're going to know from having your own relationship with God, like what grounds you and, who you put your trust in for the big stuff. And that can then spill over because your friend is going to be looking to you and then you're honest. Like, then you get honest about your stuff. Like, if he tells you he's feeling burnt out, then you get honest and you say, I've been there. Yep. And then he says, well, how'd you get out of that? You seem to be kind of have it all together right now.
Guys have a harder time with that kind of conversation than women do, I think. But if he ever asked me that, I would have a good answer. And sometimes I volunteered it. You know what? That would be something I would pray about. And I'll tell him, I'll pray for you. And every single time he says, thank you.
Yes.
And empathy, I just want to say this too. It's just huge because I always try to have one or two people that I'm walking with. And in my case, they're guys because, boundary thing.
Sure.
But anyway, There's one guy that just became a Christian, but I've been tracking with him for 10 years, and his marriage is on the rocks. And it's been a lot of text messages because I've been on the road a lot lately.
Yes.
But, almost daily, how's it going? And he's like, oh, I think we're going to make it. No, we're not. Then he moved out again. And, he knows my bias is like fight for your marriage. But the other day he was like, yeah, it's over. It's over. And I'm like, just don't make decisions on a bad day. Like go see a counselor before you make decisions you're going to live with for 20 or 30 or 40 years the rest of your life, and that impacts so many other people. And so today I got and I'm trying not to judge. I'm trying not to judge. I'm trying not to do that. And then today I get a text, hey, we're talking again, and I'm going to see the counselor, and I'm like, yes,
Yeah. So doesn't that draw you in? I mean, those texts that are coming your way, he's confiding in you, like, don't you feel completely drawn into that?
Totally. And it's a different world than the one, not that we haven't had marriage issues myself, but it's a very different world. And I think it definitely preachers, it makes you a better preacher because you understand this is where most people live.
Right.
And, here's my little pastoral hat.
Okay.
Back when I used to do pastoral care, so I'm not very good at it, and our church is too big now, right? It was like one of the questions I would always ask people, and I would particularly of men, I would say, so who are you talking to about this?
Right.
Number one answer.
Yes.
Nobody.
Yeah, brutal.
I'm like, what? Like, there's nobody, not a friend. No, my friends, we talk about sports. Well, what about your wife? No, we haven't talked in years.
Okay.
Well, like who? A brother? No, nobody. Which is why you're with this stranger in his office.
Yeah.
Now we pay people to be our friend. We call them counselors. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you're empathetic, and this is why I think people are so open to the kinds of friendships and dialogue that you have.
Right.
Number one, you really care. It's not an act. Number two, it's so rare. Like people, most people are only interested in themselves. They're not interested in other people. And when somebody comes along and they're there with you and they care for you, it's just rare. What are you thinking?
You make me sound so amazing. I just want to listen to my own podcast playback. I know I am driven for authentic relationships.
Yeah.
And this has worked out for me in so many examples and has brought about some rich experiences, including sharing my faith.
Yeah.
It hasn't always worked out, and I certainly don't want to size myself
But it has
up.
a lot. I can point to a ton of baptisms that are like, well, that's a Rob and Rose thing. Rob would say that's a Rose thing. It's a God thing, ultimately.
Yeah.
But he uses people to extend the invitation.
Yeah.
So how do you invite people to church? Let me break this down.
It's an extension of our conversation. Sometimes I can go there pretty quick. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So a nursing colleague at work, we talk about our kids. We're both on Facebook, and so we're comparing, even recently the season of Halloween, comparing Halloween costumes and what did your kids go dressed up as?
Yeah.
And then I say, well, our kids got dressed up a whole day early because at our church, actually it was come to church in your costume morning on that Sunday, which was before Halloween. And then I jump from there and I say, yeah, it's so great. My kids are so excited about church. When I grew up, I attended a church where I wasn't actually that excited about my Sunday school. But what I love so much about the church that I found in our community is my kids really love to go there. And do you guys attend a church in town? What's it like for you guys? And honestly, sometimes if the conversation then turns around to the church that they're going to and is great for them, fantastic. Then we have a great conversation about how they love their church, I love my church. Awesome. And now I know something new about that person. But I look.
See, but you see how organic that is? That isn't just like, here, come to my church.
No.
It's not robotic. It's very natural. It's woven into the fabric of the relationship and the conversation.
Yeah.
And you're naturally a very enthusiastic person. So it would not be out of character for you to go, man, you should totally come to our church.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see you doing that. Totally.
I know it's been good for me. So
Yeah.
I like to include people. And I do attend a church that it's easy to invite people to. It's accessible. I love
Great. It better be a good church. And I know Rob has texted me on a Saturday night. He's like, what are you preaching on tomorrow? Better not be money. I'm like, oh, good. They're bringing friends out. That's great.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, it's money.
Can I tell you a very private conversation that Rob and I have had before?
Sure.
We've invited friends. It is Saturday night. And we're looking ahead to that Sunday morning, and we both say like, oh man, like whatever Carrie's preaching tomorrow better not suck. It better be great, because we got our friends sitting right beside us. And I listen to the message through totally different ears when I've got my friends who are unchurched, who are checking out Christianity for the first time, very much differently than when I come to church by myself.
Put you on pins and needles. I mean, we've had friends. I mean, even as the guy up there with the microphone taped to his face, I freak out when I'm like, oh, they're here. And then it's like, oh, your message goes through a whole other filter, even though I try to keep that filter handy.
Yeah.
And that's great. But you need to have, and this is why we're so passionate as a North Point church, to have a church that unchurched people hopefully love to attend.
Yes.
And for the most part, people seem to.
Yes.
And, we've seen 60% of our growth is people who don't have a church background, which is great.
Yes.
So, okay. So you naturally extend the invitation. Do you give up after one try?
No, because my friendship doesn't end there.
Right.
And honestly, whenever, if it's a close friend, that it comes up time and time again. I go to church every Sunday. I'm involved in a small group. This is a part of my weekly goings on when I share about what I'm up to. It spills over into the conversation, and I'm constantly inviting.
Yeah, you are. I know.
I am, because I just think that's a great idea. And it's what I'm up to. I share what I'm up to. I honestly believe that if you walk through life without God, you're missing out.
Yeah. Me too.
I really do.
Yeah.
And so
it's what I want for them, not what I want from them.
Yeah.
Right?
And I just can't wait for that person who I've been inviting to church, who I've been inviting into faith, who I've been inviting into a relationship with Jesus and trusting their life to them. I can't wait for that person to sit across from me and say, here it is, Rose. Like, this is my story now. This is how I came from this life without God, without acknowledging Jesus, without knowing. And now I've tapped in. Now I'm trusting. Like, now I have surrendered my will. I can't put those words in anyone's mouth. But when they come to me and share that with me, oh, home run. Like,
yeah, you're tearing up right now, and I'm starting to tear up. That is great. There's nothing more powerful than when somebody that you care about and somebody who is a friend decides to follow Jesus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it enhances their entire well-being. Like, I would want anyone who's fallen and can't get up to get help, or who is sick and been recently diagnosed, like to be, treated effectively and therapeutically. And so my bias is that our heart condition is sick without knowing God. And if someone comes and says to me, I've applied this remedy, I have opened up to the truth about who created me, who loves me, and I'm experiencing unconditional love. Well, fantastic. I mean, I bought into it a long time ago. I am a Christian, but if someone now comes and tells me that this is new and it's newly amazing for them, I love that.
Yeah. And you okay, let me ask you this. I got like 4 or 5 questions. So you keep coming back. But again, I think the mistake is to always talk about it or never talk about it, right?
Right.
If somebody's a little bit resistant, it's like, okay, well, I invited them once, they said no, so I'll never talk about it again. Or you always talk about it where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm a project. And I think you're right. It comes up organically and naturally in the flow of conversation. So just
all the while being real with my own stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I never was like, I'm a Christian, so I got it all figured out. You got that problem, here's the solution. You got that problem, here's the solution. I admit some of my embarrassing, like, yucky stuff sometimes to people who I am also inviting into relationship with God. And I sometimes stand back and I'm like, oh my gosh, now they totally know, a little bit more about me, but that's that.
But that makes you real and it makes you relatable, right? I always think people admire your strengths, but they resonate with your weaknesses. It's like, they're like, they're just like me, right? Well, yeah, sometimes a lot worse, I promise you. Right? A lot worse than you.
Yeah. Yes.
Just redeemed. Okay, that's good. What and you continue to track with people for years, whether they become Christians or not. Like, we have some very good mutual friends that we baptized now 2 or 3 years ago. And, we sat next to them in church on Sunday. Their daughter was singing on stage.
Yes.
And we see whole families come to faith in Christ, which is amazing.
We have. Exactly. I know exactly who you're speaking of. Yeah. And I remember the day after having attended church together for a little while that I got a text and it said, I just read in Matthew about, I don't even remember exactly the scripture, but the point in the text was, I just read this passage, I followed up on a message from Sunday morning, and I get it. I am going to surrender. That was her word, capital S, because prior to that, we had been able to talk about her hang up with the word surrender. She'd been walking through life and had a lot figured out, very accomplished, well family and well-respected family. And she started coming to church and she quickly figured it out. Like, I just haven't surrendered my life. And I've got an issue with that. And when she sent me the text and said, today I surrender. I went out for a run. It was one of those runs where sometimes I run with my feet and my hands are in the air. Oh my gosh, I can be pretty holy on my runs sometimes.
That's okay. We live in the country. There's nobody around, right?
We do. Yeah, beautiful side road. And my hands were up sometimes because I just felt like this was the huge hug from heaven, however cliche-ish that sounds, because that day I had witnessed my good friend get it and understand. And it was all for her. But I got to be in the front row seat and she texted me first. And she went on to get baptized, and her relationship with God has only grown and has been a huge cornerstone for her.
Yeah. And you never know, just because I know a lot of people, you're like, oh, I just wish I had one story like that. That's the difference between your house and my house. There's no Connexus here. Sorry, Rose. Rose is like wiping her eyes. It's a guy's office. I'm sorry.
It works. I got sleeves.
Okay. Yeah. So, the challenge is, I think it was Billy Graham, or this could be apocryphal, but, it takes about 7 interventions by different people to lead someone to the line of faith. And the first person to talk about Jesus feels that they played 0 role.
Sure.
And the last person takes all the credit, right?
Yes.
But the reality is, in some of those stories, like, you may be person number 3 or number 5.
Exactly.
In our friend's case, you were number 7. And so that's really cool. You get a couple of 7s in your life or in a year.
Because honestly, Carrie, at the end of the day, I am not responsible for someone surrendering their life to Jesus. I am a Christian, and I would love, as you've heard me express, love for people to understand and get God's unconditional love for them and just fall into that, relax into that, and just live their life in the fullness of knowing that. Fantastic. But if it's not going to be that I hear that confession, that's shared with me, that friend goes there, I mean, my hands are off. It is no big deal. Like, it is not me losing sleep. It is all about
trusting it to God's bigger purpose. It is all
about the work that God will continue to do in their hearts and minds. And who am I to really go about manipulating any sort of circumstance, or they should come to church this Sunday and then they're going to do that and then they're going to pray and then they're going to come to this Bible study and then bam, that's not it. It is living authentically alongside people that are in your circle and being real with you yourself, asking good questions, and then you get to see what unfolds, what naturally unfolds.
Yeah, and it's you're saying unconditional love. It is really hard to show someone unconditional love conditionally. And we try to do that all the time. If you, then I will.
Yeah.
If you, then. And I think that's a mistake. Okay. A couple of things I want to get to before we're done. This conversation, like many of our dinner parties or whatever, could go on all day, all night. It's great.
Good.
But here's a question for you, because we have a lot of church leaders listening, whether they're staff, senior pastors, or elder board members, heavily involved volunteers. When you invite your friend to church, That is a big day.
Yes.
Everyone's heart rate goes up, including the preachers when they
Yeah.
get those Saturday night texts from you or Rob. Whoa, what are you talking about? And those are always good. They're always welcome. Don't suck today. Right.
My friend's coming.
Right. What are some turnoffs? What are some bad things that are like, oh man, if our church did this, that would be a complete disaster? And conversely, what are some things that you think, hey, this really works for our unchurched friends? What are 2 or 3 markers that you are like, these are non-negotiables?
Well, something maybe not. Well, I think it's significant. So just navigating a new place. Like when you come to church for the first time on a Sunday, you really can feel like you're showing up at a party you weren't necessarily invited to.
Yeah.
Like everything's been going on in the background. There's the church people have set it all up, and you walked into those doors.
You walked into like a private club.
Sure. You're tapping into an entire subculture that exists and you're not a part of it. You just decided that day, for whatever reason, you're going to walk into it. Well, then from that moment, it needs to be easy to navigate. It's a practical thing. But I have seen people come to churches in the past, and I think our church actually does a really good job of this. But if they can't figure out where they're going to drop off their kids or where the actual main theater is, or even simple things like, okay, I've showed up now, but how long am I going to be here? Just those simple things can really make you feel uncomfortable because you end up tapping people on the shoulder and like, do you know where do I drop the kids off? And
and you maybe know nobody.
Yeah.
Now, when you invite your friends, you don't just like randomly have them show up. You guys like do church together, right? You meet them at a set time.
Text
you
me.
go
I'll
out
meet
for
you in the
lunch.
foyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
What are some other things that are kind of really important?
Well, so for sure a place for your kids. That's my parenting stage of life.
Clean, safe.
Yes,
exciting.
exactly. Predictable and very clearly communicated. And then that is just not weird with the singing. You come to church and there's going to always be singing.
Yeah.
Usually. It's just not weird with the singing.
So what's weird?
Well,
we do the band
is
and
some of the worship choruses that I grew up singing. I think about them sometimes like lyrics about military and army and marching, and you're like, or the blood, or gonna, like, these are all Christian analogies that we understand have significance and are based in Scripture. But if you just ask someone to come into your church and sing these words out loud, it's like, what does that mean? And when I sing them, when I've got my non-church friend sitting beside me, I feel weird singing them. I'm like, this isn't really relevant. This is just a little bit odd. So, and then you feel like you have to end up apologizing for that afterwards. So I want the music and the lyrics to the songs to actually be thoughtful and relevant and reflect on that person's experience. And we come to church with thoughts about what does it all mean, and life can be tough and challenging.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There's beautiful church appropriate songs that reflect that element of the human experience. And let's gather together and sing words like that, I think.
What about preachers? When do I do a good job? When do I do a bad job? Don't suck. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna tape that to my computer. Don't suck.
I think it's important to acknowledge, and I want you as the preacher, when my non-church friend is sitting in the audience, that they don't have a lot of pre-assumed Bible knowledge.
Yep.
That they sometimes didn't even really want to be here, and to just acknowledge that. They did their friend a favor, so they came. Certainly that they haven't, that you don't assume that they've bought into Christianity.
Right.
And
as we all know, nope.
Yes. Or exactly. Or making references to the Bible and to Scripture and assuming that people understand where it's all coming from. Right. And if your language ever slips into us versus them, like, we are the salt and light of the earth, and we need to go and preach the good news to those people out there. Oh my gosh. Like, you have just erected a brick wall, and I don't even want to bring my friend back
because
anymore.
those people are right here And they're,
First of all, I'll apologize for you don't do this. And so you're, making me speak of, being facetious in an analogy. But yeah, that would make me feel very uncomfortable sitting next to my non-church friend and having the pastor in his message assume that we are like-minded and we gather today to be together as like-minded Christians to go and save the lost. All the people that are outside of these walls. So no.
Which to a certain level, we agree with. It's just that is not the place or the forum to talk that way. And remember, those people, if you're doing your job, they're in the room and you speak differently. And you don't speak inauthentically. It's just you're sensitive to that in a
respectful way.
In a respectful way.
Everybody brings something to the table. Honestly, I have medical colleagues that are hugely intelligent and have amazing credentials in our community. And if I'm going to bring a physician friend, for example, to church on a Sunday morning, I want that person to be respected. They may never have opened a Bible, but I want them to not feel mocked because of that.
Yeah. The way I think of it as a preacher is assume intelligence, but not background. In other words, let's assume they're smart. Let's assume they've thought through these issues, but let's not assume they know who King David is. Let's not assume that they know what the Old Testament is or the New Testament is. So assume intelligence. Don't be condescending, but don't assume background and create a 30-second runway. Like, for example, if you're going into a story of King David, hey, King David is probably one of the most influential monarchs. He brought Israel to the state of a superpower about 1,000 years before Jesus. So this is from the Old Testament. That's a part of the Bible before Jesus. And we meet King David at the height of his power. Boom. That's 20 seconds, and half the Christians have forgotten that anyway or never knew it. So it's like, okay.
Yes.
Right? Or put the slideshow in order.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Moses was a great leader, but David, who came after him, was even better.
Right.
To an extent. Well, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Just, arrange the slideshow in proper order. Okay, no, those are good tips. Now, what we're going to do is in the show notes, we're going to link to, I've got 3 interviews that I'd like to link into our show notes. Sure. Definitely Marissa. You did a 2-part interview with Marissa and her wife.
Yes, yeah.
And I know that's very mind-bending for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'll warn you, it's a PG-13. Do not play that interview with your children in the car because it's a refreshingly candid conversation.
It is. But she speaks of her transformation from being a man to becoming a woman. And because I am a faith-based show, we talk about the spiritual aspect of her transitioning. Yeah. So I ask her thoughts on God.
And if you want an example of listening without judgment, just listen to that. It is unbelievable. It's masterful. Also loved your interview with Dimitri Guller.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
thank you.
And so we'll link to that one. And then there's one that's really close to my heart because you interviewed my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved sitting down with Tony.
So we talked about, in this podcast and other places, my burnout, but she went through a really tough period around the same time. And so you interviewed her. Well, we're recording this months in advance, but we will link to all of those show notes as well as your podcast, where basically you just sit down with people and you have conversations about faith and life. And so if you're looking to see what it actually means to have empathy and to not judge and to genuinely be interested in other people, Rose is honestly, and I don't say this lightly, one of the best people I've ever met in my life at it.
Carrie,
so you'll love that.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's why we're having this conversation.
I
get schooled by you all the time because I'm narrow, judgmental, harsh, more interested in myself.
No.
Sure.
I have seen you come to enjoy conversations with people even a little bit more than you used to. I have seen you come around and say, well, how are you really doing? How you're really thinking about this or that. So I mean, we've been friends for a long time. We've seen each other mutually grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Rose, anything else you want to share?
Well, I want to say thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You gave me an opportunity to reflect on something that's really important to me, and that's authentic conversations and putting it in a spiritual context and my love for God, which is a really authentic part of me.
Yeah, and if you're ever at the Meeder house, ask them for some of their maple syrup. Hey. They make it from their own maple trees.
And that's all
crazy.
Rob.
That's all Rob.
He gets the kids to collect the sap from the buckets. We as a family have a lot of things going on, but there's some that's him and there's some stuff that's me.
Oh, that's
Thank
great.
you. Maple
Hey,
syrup.
Rose, thanks. So Rose Zacharias Meeder, my guest. What is the name you use on your podcast? Rose Zacharias Meeder?
Yes, and my show is called Intersection because we talk about where real life and faith collide. So people sit down, one conversation after the other, and talk about a season or an experience in their life in the context of faith. So no matter where they are on a faith spectrum, I'm able to ask them questions about their life experience and ask some spiritual questions around it.
That's great. Thanks so much, Rose.
Thank you, Carrie.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode of the Connexus Church audio podcast. Hey, you know what? If you have not subscribed yet to this podcast, would you do it? Because if you ever happen to be on the road, and I'm sure none of you are taking vacation this summer, and you're like, man, I missed that message and I wish I could get it. You want to go on the website or you want to go, to Connexus on demand, but you missed that or it didn't work on your phone or whatever because you were driving and you shouldn't be watching stuff when you're driving. Well, that's why we do this audio podcast, because you can just pop it on when you're in the car or on the run, or you're on your run or on your bike or wherever you happen to be, even cooking dinner. You can catch up on all the messages that you may have missed. Of course, there's nothing better than being there in person and bringing your friends to church, and so we love that. But on the odd day you miss, that's what this podcast does. And if you subscribe, you get it automatically, and of course, it's free. So you can do that. Thanks so much for listening. Normally what sits here is a few bonus episodes, but just our weekly teaching. So thanks for listening, Connexus Church, and thank you so much for investing in people in the community. We want you to be for the city of Aurelia, for the city of Barrie, and for at least 4 families in each of those cities as you build into people relationally as well. And it's all part of our mission to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus and to be a church that unchurched people love to attend. Thanks for listening today.